When I started, it was go and take this key, go and print this, go and get that. And then eventually it moved on to, would you mind showing a client this property? So I started from the bottom. 2006, I came to Dubai, and Jumeirah Islands was just coming off the ground. So I came here when it was a sandpit. I could visualize what it would look like, the type of community that I wanted to fall in love with, because you have to be in love with the community in order to be able to sell the properties. You can't replicate the culture at Espace. For myself, I'm one of the trainers. I tell true stories. I don't sit there with a PowerPoint saying this is this and this is that and say this. And I actually go from my own experiences.
Yeah.
There you go.
I just love helping. I've always been like that. And I think a lot of people benefit from that at Espace.
And that's why you're sitting with 100 million sales for the month of October. How do you stay so consistent? Welcome back to season 2 of the Path to Real Estate Success with Espace Real Estate. I am delighted to be kicking off the season with Associate Director Roberto Perez, our top sales performer for the month of October, with over 100 million in sales this month alone. Roberto sets the bar high for performance and is constantly ranking in the top 3. Welcome to the show, Roberto.
Thank you for having me, Sophie.
Thank you, Roberto. Not only were you the top biller for this month, but you also did the highest number of viewings. You constantly deliver. Always doing deals, always turning up. How do you stay so consistent?
I guess the word that you've just used there is the reason why. Consistency. This job is not for the faint-hearted. It comes with hard work. It comes with arguments with your wife and your husbands, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it's reality. I mean, we get paid well, but we also have to put in the work. Exactly it.
We have a lot of new joiners at the moment, and some of them probably come over a little bit naive and think it's overnight success and they can be a Roberto in a month's time, but we know that's not the reality.
Absolutely not. You know, when I first started this job, it was back in the UK. I was given an opportunity with a friend, and when I started, it was go and take this key, go and print this, go and get that.
Yeah.
And then eventually it moved on to, would you mind showing a client this property?
Yeah.
So I started from the bottom, and I learned, I had a very good mentor.
Yeah.
And I guess I learned at the very, very bottom, not like most brokers nowadays.
Can you actually remember what your first few weeks were like when you moved to Dubai?
Actually, I did a recce of Dubai before I actually came to Dubai. And that was in 2004.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with Dubai back then, still in love with it right now. 2006, I came, and Jumeirah Islands, funnily enough, was just coming off the ground. So I came here when it was a sandpit, but I also did the recce around other villa communities. But Jumeirah Islands was the one that jumped out to me. It was very exclusive. I could visualize what it would look like and the type of community that I wanted to fall in love with, because you have to be in love with the community in order to be able to sell the properties. And I guess that's one of the main things why I've lasted this long in Jumeirah Islands.
15 years solely working in Jumeirah Islands? 17 years.
17
wow.
years.
Most people in Dubai know that you know Jumeirah Islands better than anyone else in the city. We know that Espace and other agents beyond Espace know that as well. And I know you get a lot of agents coming to you with buyers. How do you deal with it?
I can see my phone flashing right now, so no doubt that's probably a client. That's probably a client or an agent calling me.
I think Roberto's already had 8 messages since we've arrived at this villa.
Yes, I looked. I had a quick peek earlier on, and there was like 20 messages without even. And that's in the last 10 minutes.
How do you cope with it though?
It's actually very, very hard. On a daily basis, I mean, just now, I have like 10, 15, 20 messages to go through.
And they're from a combination of buyers and then agents with buyers?
Yeah, they're a combination of buyers calling through the property portals, colleagues in my office, but the majority are other brokerages. They don't have the know-how. They don't have the capabilities that Espace has in Jumeirah Islands. So they rely on people like me. But I have to be honest, I have to filter through those and only deal with the ones that actually know what their clients are looking for, because a lot of the time you waste your time.
You have done amazing so far this year. And you do amazing in your own right. And for those people watching, you do a lot of double deals. So you represent the buyer and the seller.
Correct.
But you've also done about 10 deals this year with other Espace colleagues. So how important is the Espace marketplace for you?
I don't want to just say this because I work for Espace, because there are some other great companies out there.
Yeah.
But we are only one of a handful of agencies that can do what we do, and that's deliver a service to our clients. But the majority of it is we have community specialists, and we cross-sell from one community to the next. I'll give you an example. This property that we're actually sitting in. So the actual buyer of the property was looking in Palm Jumeirah. It was Joran's buyer. They were originally looking on the Palm. Joran done a very good job on saying, look, like for like, why don't you come and see something in Jumeirah Islands? The guy didn't even know Jumeirah Islands existed. Once he came here and he saw, okay, what I can buy and value for money, then obviously he fell in love with the community, and the rest is history.
That's just the power of the marketplace. You've also done deals with Danny, Shanzi, all associate directors of Espace
Absolutely.
this year.
Matthew, Gil van Gelder. These are all guys that I love and worked with for many years. At the end of the day, it's if you've got a client and you're only working in a specific location and you can't offer them anything else, more than likely you are going to lose that client. Whereas I can go to Danny Abraham and say, Danny, what do you have? I have a client that has this budget and I want to show like for like what we have in the Meadows or Khatans, for example. Or I can go to, someone in the Emirates Hills division. I can go to Arta. And that can't be done by many companies. So, I don't have to go out from our
don't have to go to other agents.
Agencies, exactly. And, that's brilliant because it means that we control the buyer, we control the whole process.
Touching on agents, you are surrounded by some of the best. You sit right across from Arthur every day. I see new joiners that have only been in the company for 4 to 6 months sitting beside you, sitting across from Arthur. What's the benefit for them from that?
Wow, that's a very good question, Sophie. It's a massive benefit. When I first started, I didn't have, the likes of myself or Arta or Danny Abraham, Gil van Gelder, John Lyons. To have these caliber of brokers sitting on the same desk, hearing us have conversations, difficult conversations, it's massive advantage. In fact, funny enough, her name is Sophie as well. Sophie the other day heard me on the telephone having a conversation that wasn't an easy conversation, but I had to be, a little bit cruel to be kind. And she was actually like shocked and surprised that, how you can deal with the client and how the conversation was going. But, we're not nodding dogs. We are human beings, and sometimes you get into sticky situations and, you have to put your point across.
We touched on, Roberto, that you've been in the industry for 17 years. And I think even in the last 3 years since COVID, it's massively evolved. Is there any changes that you've noticed that have impacted your career or anything you've taken on board with new advances in technology, everything? You're a big man on social media.
I am a big man on social media, only since COVID started, by the way. Okay. My wife, for the last 5-6 years, was on my case. You should do Instagram. And I was like, I don't have time. I don't even have time for what I'm doing right now. Never mind, looking after an Instagram account. I'll give you an example. From my social media page, Right Move Dubai, I had a client who was following me. They had a property in Hillside.
Jumeirah Golf Estates?
In Jumeirah Golf Estates. And, he came to me and said, look, I love the way you promote your properties and the videos you do. Would you mind, coming to see me and see if you can help? That was very touching for me because, I specialize in Jumeirah Islands, but it doesn't mean that I don't sell in other areas. I sell in Emirates Hills, I sell in Palm Jumeirah, I sell in Jumeirah Golf Estates.
You just sold a Springs one this month?
I sold a property in Springs. So it's not just it's not just in Jumeirah Island, guys. But getting back to the point, so I met with a client. He had been on the market for 6 months with an agency, but his property was overpriced. But no one had sat with him and gone through, the prices per square foot, what has sold over the last 6 months to 1 year. When we sat down and we went through all this on paper, and he saw it, he started to understand the market. So he still wanted to put it on still for a higher price. And I said, look, I can't help you. If you want my services, and you want what I offer you on my Instagram and my client base, then you need to obviously follow what I'm saying. And to begin with, he was kind of taken a little bit back. But after 2 weeks, he approached me again and said, look, Roberto, I've been, it wasn't like I took it on. I was like, look, I can't help you.
Yeah.
Not at these prices.
Yeah.
And then after a couple of weeks, he reached out to me again and said, look, I think I'm ready. Can we reduce the price, but not, can we just have a little bit there to negotiate?
Yeah.
And I said, look, it's definitely a step in the right direction. Anyways, we put the property on the market, and long and behold, after a week, I had a Chinese client message me through Instagram.
So the seller came from Instagram, and then the buyer came from Instagram.
And then the buyer came from Instagram.
Wow.
Yeah, and ended up in a nice sale.
What did that sell for?
It's above 40.
For people watching new joiners, should they get on the social media train if they join? Do you think it's a powerful tool to have?
Absolutely, but again, it's all about consistency.
So you've been with us for 17 years.
Yeah, but I left for a little while. I was approached by another company, another real estate brokerage, and they sold me the dream, 100% commission. Yeah. So I moved thinking, well, why should I give 50% of my commission to a company when I could be earning 100%? Yeah. Stupidly. So I left. Okay. The first 3-4 months was great. Yeah. Obviously, I was working on things. I had a momentum, so I had a lot of transactions that came with me when I moved. Yeah. And I did take 100% commission. But then I soon realised that there was no teamwork. There was no cross-selling. Yeah. I couldn't sell from Jumeirah Islands to Jumeirah Golf Estates or from Jumeirah Islands to Palm Jumeirah. So very, very soon after I'd left, I kind of left Espace with an open door policy and came back with my tail between my legs. I had to do it because it made me even more hungry than what I was, because when I left, I also left a community, and someone else benefited from that at Espace Real Estate. Yeah. So I had to work my way up again from the bottom.
How important, Roberto, do you think for new joiners is the culture that we have at Espace in supporting them on their journey?
Look, you can't replicate the culture at Espace. So for myself, I'm one of the trainers together with Daniela, Danny Abraham, Matthew Montgomery, Gil Van Gelder. You've got some top brokers helping these new starters come along. I tell true stories. Yeah. I don't sit there with a PowerPoint, saying this is this and this is that and say this. And I actually go from my own experiences. Day
to day on the floor as well. I can see you helping people out when they're on the phone calls.
Always. If I see someone struggling, because I've done this job for more than 20 years, I kind of know how that conversation is going and what's being said. So I stop and, I say, put it on hold. Why don't you try and say this? Or why don't you, I don't think you kind of get this kind of help from other brokerages. Every man's for themselves here. But I just love helping. I've always been like that. And I think a lot of people benefit from that at Espace.
So, Roberto, we also ask these quick-fire questions to everyone that's come on the show. Okay. What advice would you give to someone 2 weeks in the role? They're struggling, thinking of giving up.
Not to give up, to put your foot down even more. Yeah. Consistency. When I'm interviewing people, when they're looking to join Espace, one of the main things that I say to them is, it's not going to happen maybe within 3 months. Yeah. But it will certainly happen within 6 months. Yeah. But you need to be prepared, and you need to be first one in, last one out. Yeah. Hard work for the first 6 months. Yeah. People that are coming and, coming in at 9, leaving at 5, not working at weekends, it's just simply not going to happen. Yeah. Look at me. Yeah. It's not like I need to be in the office till 7, 8 o'clock at night, but I still do. Yeah. Right? Why is that? I sell something big, or whether it's big or small, it doesn't matter. But I move on to the next and I crack on.
Many people don't succeed. We just touched on it. What do you think you do day in and day out that makes you succeed?
Well, I guess we touched on that at the start, right? Is consistency.
And I suppose you're passionate about the job. Like, you love Jumeirah Islands.
I love Jumeirah Islands. Yeah. It's my baby. I've been here from the start. Yeah. So I guess you have to love what you do.
Yeah.
And I love what I do. I have a passion for it. And every day is different. You just don't know who that next person is through the door.
Putting yourself aside, you are surrounded by some of the best brokers in Dubai at Espace. Correct. Who do you admire the most?
I can't say there's one or two. I'll say there's a number of them. I have a very soft spot for Arta.
One of the best brokers in Dubai, recognised by the Dubai Land Department last year.
Correct,
Yep.
yeah.
Top five.
Top five. He sits opposite me. He learns from me. I learn from him. Yeah. Even experienced brokers, we're always learning. Another guy that I really, love to work with and, I love very much is Daniel Abraham.
Yeah, you've done deals with him this year.
Absolutely, yeah. And we're just about to, hopefully, fingers crossed, sell something. Yeah. And that's in the Meadows. Yeah. So there you go. People like John Lyons, Gil Van Gelder, I can't say there's one. Yeah. There's a lot of people that have helped me grow at Espace. And, I've got to obviously, take my hat off to them as well, because they've had an input into who I am today.
Everyone that you've just mentioned there that you admire in Espace, from someone that observes these people every day, the common denominator is that they're all hungry, they're all passionate, and they're driven.
Absolutely.
And so are you. And that's why you're sitting with 100 million sales for the month of October. But before every interview, I also look at the stats. And not only did you bill the highest month out of all the brokers at Espace, but you also did the highest number of viewings. How many viewings did you do this month?
Ask my wife. She will know the answer to that. Actually, it was 59 viewings.
59 viewings.
59 viewings, yeah. Yeah. But it just says it all. It's not all glorious. Yeah. Like all these like all these programs and how people perceive it to be. Yeah. It absolutely is not. I'm a true believer in the way I work. There are brokers that take clients and do 1 or 2 viewings. Yeah. I don't believe in that process. My philosophy behind it is for every 10 viewings, I get an offer. I try and show as many properties that I can. In 1 or 2 viewings, you're not going to be able to understand what the client wants, listen to their needs, and be able to put the puzzle together. When I go out with clients, I ask for them to give me a certain time frame. And within that time frame, I try and show as many properties that I can. And from that, 99% of the time, you'll get an offer. Yeah. And you get an offer, you get potential transaction and an agreement made. So,
Roberto, thank you so much for joining the show today.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you. I hope the viewers enjoyed it, and stay tuned for episode 2.
Right move Dubai.